trulymajestic.com, and I'm coming at you with some ideas to use up these extra bits of wool roving. After you've arm knitted, you've probably felted these up. Well, you can actually unfelt them and pull bits off like this and wet felt them up into masterpieces. Watch this.
In this tutorial, this lady does a really excellent job of doing a narcissus. You can see she's using unfelted wool roving. Now, if you have arm knitted up your yarn, you can simply unfelt it by pulling it apart. And then you just form the little, each petal like this. Give it a twirl at the top and bottom and just play with it until you have a nice shape. Bubble wrap is a must when it comes to wet felting. It just gives you a nice bumpy place to work on, and friction is what felts your wool. Friction and soapy water. So there's nothing magical about this. You just simply need to put on light, wispy layers. So we're putting a piece of chiffon or cheesecloth over this, getting it soaked up and wet down. This is so it won't move around a lot. So it's like all nice and together. You want to catch the little flyaways and make sure they're nicely onto the petals, and maybe just play with the sides again. Now we're going to soap up again and just gently, very gently rub the fibers together. So we're doing this gently, rub, 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 and the bumpy bubble wrap underneath helps felt the wool, as well as rubbing this mesh or chiffon over the top. So this takes a long time. It might take 10 minutes to gently do this part of it. Be patient, go slow, and make sure your flower is all staying together. It will start sticking together and be less kind of flyaway-ish after it gets sort of beginning felted. Now we're going to be adding a round plastic template over the top of this one, and it has a hole in the center, so the wool will all stick together in the center. You add the petals the same as before, and then soap them up, do the same, and then put another round template on top, and then we're going to be doing the center of the flower now. By the way, go slow, take your time. It is fiddly to deal with wool, especially when it gets wet, it flies everywhere. So just go slow and keep putting it back into place and you'll be fine. So we put another plastic template over the middle of the flower, and now it's time to add the yellow. You don't need a brush like this. You can have one, but it's not absolutely necessary. What we want is just a little puffy, fluffy, round bit of yellow in the very center. So this lady's just using the brush to take off little bits of it at a time, and it is actually just a simple cat brush. Those work great for wool roving. These embellishments added to the center of the flower are not absolutely necessary. You can add them. They gave it a nice flavor. And now we're going to add some orange around the outsides. Now, if you use some silk wool roving, that really adds a lot of interesting colors. And as you can see, she's adding some green. It looks a little bit greenish, and then the red around the sides. And silk roving really catches the light and shimmers, so it makes it look really interesting. Once you get the center done, then you do the same as you have before. Just put that nice chiffon on the top, or cheesecloth, soap it up, gently rub it with your fingers, very gently. Rub, rub, rub with your fingers, and then you can blot it with a towel to make sure everything looks okay, and then adjust it if you want, and then go back to rubbing it with your fingers. This takes a long time. Each layer will take probably about 10 minutes to do. So just this one flower will probably take 30 minutes to do each layer, and then at the end we want to do all the layers together a few times, and that might take another 10 minutes. So it'll be a 40-minute flower maybe all together. Be patient, take your time. It will go faster once you get the hang of it. Now to felt the entire flower together, you simply put bubble wrap on the very top, on the very bottom and roll it up. And then roll that into a cloth and really press on it with your hands as you're rolling it back and forth, back and forth. This helps felt the flower by friction. Friction is what felts wool. And the soap really helps the process along, the little soapy water that you've rubbed in before. And then you have to do a lot of just delicate hand felting like this. You can use a sander if you want. Make sure the sander is in a plastic bag first, because electricity and water do not mix. So you can speed the process up by using a handheld sander. By the way, if you use a sander, you don't want the sandpaper on it. You just want the vibration. So the foam pad that it comes with is perfect. Or you can even tie bubble wrap around the bottom so it has that nice bumpy look to it. So our flower is almost finished now. And I will leave a link to this lady's channel in the description, and you can see the other tutorials she's done. You need to go over each petal and just give it a little bit more scrubbing if it needs it. If it doesn't need it, that's great. And then in the end, we're going to rinse all of this off after we're sure it's very, very felted. If it's not felted enough, it will still stay together, but you'll just have little woolly flyaways that make it look fuzzy instead of nice and tight. You can give it a roll around in your hands. That just simply helps really tighten up the felt at the very, very end and get it nice and just tight. At the very end, it's best to finish it off with a bit of ironing. Iron down each petal and just press it. The heat from the iron kind of finishes off the felt and makes sure it's really super tight and it looks nice and clean and you don't have all those little fuzzy flyaways. Now, isn't that beautiful? It only takes a little bit of wool roving to do this and you can have a masterpiece. This is perfect fastened onto a hair clip or a few of them in the center of a table as a centerpiece. There's really all sorts of things that you can do with felted wool flowers. If you do attempt this tutorial, I would absolutely love to see how your flower turned out. Don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. in my Facebook group. All the links to those will be in the description.